Hi, my name is Tanya and welcome to my small backyard vegetable garden here in central Victoria. We are back into a week of warmer weather after a couple of days of cool weather, which was very nice. In my last video, I pulled out the Tasmanian chocolate tomatoes that were planted at this end of the bed, and I built up the soil, trimmed back the salvia and replanted, and took some cuttings and things. In today's video, I am pushing on and I'm going to get those broccoli planted and pick a whole heap of peppers. This is one job I have been putting off, not so much picking them, but trying to wrangle the craziness of these capsicums. The wind has blown them over. I've tried to just quickly stand them up with some supports, but the time's come. I really need to get in there and get each plant a stake so that they can not be leaning and falling over each other, and then the eggplant need the same thing happening. So let's get on and get all the fruit or all the capsicums picked, and then let's see what we're working with. These two varieties are a sweet mix, which is this end, and the long sweet yellow. Both were punnets of seedlings that I bought at Bunnings. They are the basic range of seedlings that they have, and they have cropped so well. I have grown these before back a couple of years ago, and they didn't do this well. I think it has something to do with our weather this year. It has been such a great year for them, and they have produced. This is just the excess that I haven't picked. When I cook, I come down and I pick what I need, and the rest is just excess. The other capsicums on the other side in the other bed, I think they were a yellow mini capsicum. I bought those two separate plants just to give them a try, and they are just the same as these little green ones that I've got here, or the red that are there that I'm picking, just in a more orange yellow. I'm not sure that I would buy them again. I will save seed, but I really like the bigger capsicums purely for ease of and speed in cooking. But they have been a great thing to grow. I love putting them into salads and things, and they have produced a lot of capsicums for the outlay of the money that I spent on them. I plan to just chop all these up and put them in my freezer so that I can use them through winter. Because the bushes are still producing, I will use what I need from the bushes on a day-to-day basis, but the excess will go in the freezer. I'm also hoping to overwinter these bushes. If I have my glass house up sometime soon, like during winter or something, I may be able to pot them up. I will try, because it makes a faster year for next year. They don't need to get established, and they are a perennial plant, which means if you sort of overwinter them, they can take off again, more established. This eggplant has been such a joy to have in the garden. I absolutely love coming out here and seeing the purple stripy fruit at the end of the garden bed. So it will be sadly missed in the cooler weather. But I am definitely going to grow this next year. I don't think you can overwinter these plants. I don't think so. I've never heard of it anyway. If I am wrong, please let me know in the comments, because it would be interesting if you could. The wind has been pretty harsh on these plants, so there is a bit of foliage coming off, just sort of snapping. The growth is very brittle and is snapping quite readily, but I plan to stake each one and try and keep it upright, and then clean around underneath it, break off some lower leaves, and hopefully be able to put a bit of compost and build up the beds while I'm waiting to move them. These mini sweet yellow capsicums have also produced a great amount of fruit. They are getting overshadowed by all the tomatoes and the chilies, but they're just hanging out the side of the garden bed, making sure that they can get some sun and loving life. So they've been pretty good. I hope to overwinter these also. I may have to not overwinter every bush because otherwise I'm going to have about 100 pots, but it will be good to save a couple of each at least and get them going for next year. These chilies are so beautiful. They are not hot at all. They're more like a capsicum, and I have been putting them into cooking and they have been so delicious. I can eat them raw. So they are definitely not hot. They are absolutely beautiful to look at, and there's a fair bit of flesh to eat there in each chili. I hope to one day have all my capsicums growing in a glass house, my secondhand glass house that I've got stored away, and then I would not need to move them in and out in pots or anything else, replant them, whatever. They would just live in the glass house, which would, I think, be such a wonderful thing. I only have 3 plants of these chilies and they have produced really well. You can eat them green, so I could have been eating them for weeks before, but I did want them to go red, and the poor bush in the middle is very overshadowed but is still producing. So they are a great variety. This part of the garden bed has had about a day to settle. I've watered it a couple of times, plenty of moisture in it. I would ideally like to wait a bit longer, but with the hot weather, I want to get these established plants out of these little pots and at least get them planted and give them some sun protection and plenty of love and care, and they will be far better off in doing that than keeping them in the smaller pots. Make sure I have some white cabbage moth protection. I have not seen many around this summer, but I have seen a couple and I'm not going to take the risk. I'm going to have them covered and protected just in case while they're getting established they need some protection from the sun. So I'm going to have these little covers, and if it does get really hot I'm going to cover them again with the hessian. I'm just trimming off these older lower leaves so that as it grows there's nothing that hits the soil and they're not trying to keep those leaves alive. It can put energy into the newer leaves and it will have a better start. Making sure that I don't disturb the roots too much, just opening them up at the bottom so they can get established. The root system is really nice. They're great little plants, and just making sure there's no air in underneath them, nice and firm down into the soil, and then a good water in. And while I'm working here in this little space, I am going to sow some leek seeds, see if I can get them going here in this part of the bed. It's getting watered with everything else, so I may as well try my luck. I can always shift them. I'm using this little rusty guard. I think it's part of an old planter, like 50s planter, but it is perfect for keeping the birds off. A little patch. When I sow some seeds, I used it back when I sowed my beans just to get things out of the ground. It's a very handy little thing, and I have some potting mix just to put over the seeds so it is lighter than the garden bed soil. The rockmelon has been such a joy to grow, watching them expanding and sitting in their little hammocks has been such a fun thing. And it was quite amazing that when the first rockmelon ripened, that it just disconnected from the vine and sat in the sling. It's quite amazing. And now we'll be keeping an eye out for the next rockmelon that disconnects from the vine.